Welcome back to the deep dive. We've covered some pretty wild stuff on this show,
Oh, yeah.
but today's topic might just take the cake. We're talking about giants.
Giants.
Giants. And specifically, the theory that they might have built the mysterious mounds found all across America.
Okay. I'm intrigued. What kind of evidence are we talking about here?
Well, we've got a mountain of material to dig through. Historical accounts, old newspaper clippings, maps, even spreadsheets with reports of giant skeletons found all over the place.
Really? All over the place, huh?
Seriously, it's kind of mind-blowing. But maybe we should start with the basics. What exactly are these mounds we keep talking about?
Oh, right. Good point. So mounds are basically these large earthworks. Some are like cones, others are shaped like animals, and then you have platform mounds that could have supported buildings.
Okay, so they're not just random piles of dirt. Someone put a lot of thought and effort into building these things.
Absolutely. They're incredibly complex and sophisticated structures, and they're found all over the U.S.
And for a long time, people thought they were built by some mysterious lost civilization, like not even Native Americans.
Right, there was this whole lost race theory. But modern archaeology has pretty much debunked that. We now know that the ancestors of today's Native Americans built these mounds.
So mystery solved, case closed.
Well, not quite, because that's where the giants come in.
Okay, so we've got these mounds built by Native Americans, but what's the connection to giants? Lay it on me.
All right, well, you sent over this map pinpointing all these alleged giant skeleton discoveries, and it's pretty fascinating.
Oh yeah, I remember that map. Ohio seems to be a hotspot.
It does, doesn't it? And then there's that spreadsheet. It lists hundreds, maybe even thousands of reports from all over the U.S. and even other countries.
Yeah.
Giants in Ohio, giants in Wisconsin, giants in California. It's everywhere.
Okay, hold on. Before we get too carried away, are we talking credible reports here? Or are we just diving headfirst into a rabbit hole of hoaxes and tall tales?
That's the million-dollar question, right? Some reports are obviously exaggerated or just plain made up. But there are some accounts that are, well, harder to dismiss.
All right, give me an example. What's one that really caught your eye?
Well, there's the story of Dr. F. Bruce Russell. Back in the 1930s, he claimed to have discovered this network of catacombs in Death Valley.
Catacombs, like underground tunnels and tombs.
Exactly. And inside those catacombs, giant mummies.
Wait, what? Hold on. Giant mummies?
That's what he claimed. He even tried to get funding to explore the site further. But then he vanished. Poof, gone.
Okay, that's creepy. And more than a little suspicious. Makes you wonder what he really found down there.
Right, like, did he stumble onto something truly remarkable, something someone wanted to keep hidden? It's definitely a story that sticks with you.
All right, I'll admit, you've got my attention. So we have these intriguing reports of giant skeletons. But is there any evidence linking them to the mounds themselves? Because that's the theory we're really digging into here.
Well, that's where things get really interesting. You included two New York Times articles, one from 1886 and another from 1897, both reporting discoveries of giant skeletons in mounds.
Okay, so we're talking reputable sources here, not just some fringe publications.
Exactly. The 1886 article talks about a 14-foot skeleton found in a mound in Georgia, and the 1897 article describes a giant skeleton unearthed in Wisconsin. But here's the thing. After these initial reports, there's nothing. No follow-up investigations, no scientific analysis, just silence.
Wait, so they found these massive skeletons and just dropped it?
Pretty much. It's like the stories just vanished into thin air, which, kind of fuels the whole cover-up theory.
Okay, I'm starting to see why people suspect a cover-up. But
Yeah.
Are there any other examples that fit this pattern? Because one or two isolated incidents could just be, I don't know, coincidence or lost records or something.
Absolutely. The Great Serpent Mound in Ohio has also yielded some unusually tall skeletons. One was even missing its lower legs, suggesting it could have been much taller in life.
So even taller than the ones reported in the New York Times.
Potentially, yeah. And then there are the countless accounts of skeletons found in mounds all over West Virginia, Ohio, Iowa. And there's this recurring theme of these skeletons crumbling to dust upon exposure to air.
Crumbling to dust. That's bizarre.
It is almost like the evidence itself is too fragile or too inconvenient to exist.
All right, it's getting harder and harder to dismiss this as just a bunch of tall tales. But if there is a cover-up, who's behind it? And why? Why go through all this trouble to hide evidence of giants?
Well, think about it. If giants did exist and they built these mounds, it would completely rewrite our understanding of history. And that's a pretty scary thought for some people.
So it's a threat to the status quo, like it challenges the established narrative, and maybe some people aren't ready for that.
Exactly. Imagine the implications for religion, science, our entire understanding of human evolution. It's a lot to process.
Okay, that makes sense. But even if we accept the possibility of a cover-up, we still have the question of the mounds themselves. Were they really built by giants? Or is there a more rational explanation?
That's where we need to dive into the archaeology and the history of the mounds themselves, because even without the giant theory, these structures are incredibly fascinating and mysterious.
Oh, so let's shift gears a bit and talk about the mounds themselves. What do we actually know about them? Where are they located? And what do they tell us about the people who built them?
Well, mounds are found all over the United States, from the Midwest to the Southeast, and they come in all shapes and sizes. Some are conical mounds, others are effigy mounds, shaped like animals or birds. There are even platform mounds that were used as bases for structures.
Wow, so there's quite a variety. What were they used for?
Well, that's a question archaeologists are still trying to answer. Some mounds were clearly burial sites, while others may have served ceremonial or religious purposes. There's evidence that some mounds were used as platforms for houses or temples, and some may have even been used for astronomical observations.
It sounds like they were incredibly important to the people who built them. But who exactly were those people?
For a long time, it was widely believed that the mounds were built by a mysterious, lost race of people, separate from the Native Americans. But modern archaeology has conclusively shown that the mounds were built by the ancestors of today's Native American tribes.
So that puts the lost race theory to rest. But it still doesn't explain the giant skeletons found in some of the mounds.
No, it doesn't, and that's why this topic is so intriguing. It's a puzzle with missing pieces, and it's up to us to decide how we want to put those pieces together.
So we've got a ton of intriguing reports, whispers of a cover-up, and a lot of unanswered questions. Where do we go from here?
Well, I think it's important to acknowledge that even if we never find definitive proof of giants, these stories and legends hold cultural and historical significance. They tell us something about the human fascination with the unknown, our desire to understand our place in the world, and perhaps even our fear of what we might find if we dig too deep.
You're right. There's something about the mystery of the mounds and the giants that captures the imagination and makes us question everything we thought we knew.
Exactly. And it's that sense of wonder and curiosity that keeps us searching for answers, even when those answers may be elusive. It really makes you think, like, what if there's something else down there, you
Oh,
know?
totally. Makes you want to grab a shovel and start digging yourself.
Right. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We've been focusing on the giants and the cover up and all that. But even if we put all that aside for a second, the mounds themselves are, like I said, incredibly complex structures.
Yeah, you mentioned that they were used for different purposes, burials, ceremonies, even maybe astronomical observations.
hmm And to build something like that, it would have taken serious time and effort, like a massive
A
undertaking.
whole community effort, I'd imagine.
Exactly. And it really shows you uh, how advanced these people were. I mean, they had knowledge of engineering, astronomy, social organization. Like, they were not just wandering around aimlessly.
So if we accept that the ancestors of Native Americans built these mounds, what does that tell us about them? About their beliefs, their culture?
Well, for one, it shows a deep connection to the land and the cycles of nature. Many mounds are aligned with celestial events like solstices and
Oh,
equinoxes.
wow, so they were tracking the stars and the seasons.
And burying their dead in these mounds. That points to a reverence for their ancestors, a belief in an afterlife. It's pretty profound when you think about it.
It's like these mounds are a window into their worldview, their spiritual beliefs. It's amazing.
And the artifacts found inside, those give us even more clues about their daily lives, their skills, their art.
Right. You mentioned earlier that some artifacts were lost or damaged before they could be properly studied. It's such a shame to think about what knowledge might be gone because of that.
Oh, it's a huge loss for sure. But even with what we do have, it's clear that this was a rich and complex culture. Pottery, jewelry, tools, musical instruments, all sorts of things.
So even without the giant theory, we're still talking about an advanced and accomplished people, skilled builders, artists, astronomers. But if we circle back to the giants, how do those two narratives fit together?
That's the million-dollar question, right? Can we reconcile the archaeological evidence with the stories of giant skeletons? Or are we dealing with two totally separate things?
It's like a historical mystery novel. We have these clues, these whispers of something incredible, but the pieces don't quite fit together.
Yeah, and it's up to us to decide how we want to interpret those pieces, how we want to tell the story.
But even if the giants turn out to be a myth, why do you think these stories have persisted for so long? Like, in the face of scientific skepticism, why do people still cling to this idea?
Well, I think it speaks to a part of us that wants to believe in something bigger than ourselves, something that challenges what we think we know about the world.
Like we want to be surprised, to be awed by something truly extraordinary.
Exactly. And giants, they represent a primal power, a connection to a time when the world was full of mystery and magic. It's a powerful image.
I get that. Even if the giants themselves aren't real, the stories they inspire remind us that history isn't always black and white. There are multiple perspectives, different ways of interpreting the past.
Absolutely. And there's always the possibility of new discoveries, new evidence that could change everything we thought we knew.
So you're saying even if we never find definitive proof of giants, the search itself is still valuable.
Oh, definitely. It's about the pursuit of knowledge, the exploration of the unknown. That's what keeps things interesting. And who knows, maybe one day we will find that missing piece of the puzzle.
I like that attitude.
Mhm.
So what are some of the theories out there that try to explain, the existence of these giants?
Well, there's the biblical explanation, of course. Some people believe that the giants mentioned in the Bible, the Nephilim, were real and walked the earth and all that.
That's a theory that's been around for a long, long time.
Right. And it's definitely a compelling narrative, especially if you take the Bible literally.
Then there's the ancient alien theory, like
Yeah.
maybe these giants weren't human at all, but some kind of extraterrestrial beings.
Oh, yeah, that's a popular one. It's a way to explain those seemingly advanced skills and technology of ancient civilizations and the fact that some cultures just appear and disappear throughout history.
Makes you wonder, doesn't it? Like, are we really alone in the universe?
Yay. It's a thought-provoking idea, even if it's a bit out there. But what about more scientific explanations? Have there been any attempts to explain the existence of giants through biology or anthropology?
Well, we know gigantism exists. There have been people throughout history who have grown to incredible heights due to medical conditions.
Yeah, like Robert Wadlow, the tallest man in recorded history. So it's not completely crazy to think that gigantism could have existed in the past, maybe even on a larger scale.
But wouldn't we have found more skeletal evidence to back that up?
That's where things get tricky. Bones decompose over time, especially if they're exposed to the elements or buried in the wrong type of soil. It's possible that a lot of giant skeletons just didn't survive.
So the evidence could be out there, just lost to the ravages of time.
Exactly. And even if some skeletons did survive, they could be super fragile and difficult to excavate without damaging them. It's a delicate process.
Makes you realize that the archaeological record is incomplete.
Hmm.
We're only seeing a tiny snapshot of what might have existed in the past.
Right. And that's what makes all of this so fascinating. It's a reminder that we still have so much to learn about our past, about the origins of humanity, about the possibility of other intelligent beings that might have walked the earth before us.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Historical accounts, archaeological evidence, different theories about giants. But there's one big thing we haven't really addressed yet. The cover-up.
Yeah, the idea that someone, some organization, has been actively suppressing evidence of giants. It's a theory that's been around forever, and it's easy to see why people find it so intriguing.
It's like straight out of a conspiracy movie. Some secret group controlling the narrative, hiding the truth from the world. But why would they do that? What's the motivation?
Well, like we talked about earlier, finding proof of giants would completely change our understanding of history, religion, science. It would challenge the status quo, and that can be a scary thing for people in power.
So it's a threat to their authority, to the way things are.
Exactly. And it's not unheard of for those in power to suppress information they see as dangerous or destabilizing. History is full of examples of that.
But wouldn't a cover-up of this scale be almost impossible to maintain? Surely someone would have spoken out by now.
It would be tough, for sure, but not impossible. If the information is controlled at a high enough level, if the right people are kept quiet, it's possible to keep a secret buried for a long time.
It's kind of creepy to think about, like the truth is out there, but we're being deliberately kept in the dark.
It is a little unsettling, but it also shows how important it is to think critically, to do your own research, to not just accept what you're told blindly.
We have to be skeptical, question everything, and come to our own conclusions based on the evidence.
Exactly. Be discerning, weigh the evidence, and decide what you believe. But even if we never find out the whole truth, the journey itself is what matters.
It's about the search for knowledge, the exploration of the unknown, and remembering that there's always more to learn.
Always more to discover, always more to question.
So what do you think? Is there a cover-up? Are giants real, or are we chasing shadows?
Honestly, I don't have all the answers. I don't think anyone does. But I think it's important to keep asking the questions, keep searching for the truth, and never lose that sense of wonder and curiosity.
Well said. And on that note, we're going to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere, because when we come back, we're going to delve even deeper into this mystery. We'll explore some of the most fascinating accounts of giant skeleton discoveries, and we'll examine the evidence, or lack thereof, that supports the theory of a cover-up.
It's like we've been on this incredible adventure,
Yeah.
through time and myth and
I
legend.
know, right? It's like Indiana Jones meets ancient aliens.
Exactly. And even if we never find, like, a smoking gun, proof that giants existed, just thinking about the possibilities, it's mind-blowing.
I gotta admit, when we started this deep dive, I was pretty skeptical. Giants, cover-ups, it all sounded a bit, I don't know, out there.
Yeah, I get that.
But after digging into all this material, the reports, the legends, even if we set aside the giants for a moment, these mounds are incredible.
Oh, they are. The sheer scale of them, the effort it must have taken to build them, it speaks to a level of sophistication that we're only just beginning to grasp.
And to think that for so long, people attributed them to some lost race, some mysterious civilization. Now we know it was the ancestors of Native Americans who built these incredible structures.
Yeah, and that in itself is amazing. But then you add the giant element back into the mix, and it just throws everything wide open again.
Right. It's like we're trying to piece together a puzzle, but we're missing half the pieces. And some of the pieces we do have, they don't seem to fit.
It's a puzzle, all right. But maybe that's what makes it so fascinating. It keeps us guessing, keeps us searching for answers.
Maybe one day we will find that missing piece, that definitive proof. Or maybe the mystery will endure. But either way, it's been a wild ride.
It has. And for me, that's what it's all about. The exploration, the questioning, the constant reminder that there's still so much out there that we don't know.
So what's the takeaway for our listeners? What should they be thinking about after this deep dive?
Well, I'd say keep an open mind. Don't be afraid to question what you've been told, what you think you know. Do your own research, dig a little deeper, and who knows what you might find.
There's a whole world of mystery out there just waiting to be uncovered. And sometimes the most incredible discoveries are the ones we make in our own backyards.
Right. It could be a local legend, a strange artifact, a forgotten story passed down through generations. Pay attention to those things. It might just lead you to something truly remarkable.
And remember, even if we never find definitive proof of giants or a cover-up, the journey itself is valuable. It's about expanding our horizons, challenging our assumptions, and embracing the wonder of the unknown.
Exactly. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and never stop being curious. Because
Yeah.
that's what makes life interesting, isn't it?
Couldn't said it better myself. Well, that about wraps up our deep dive into the world of giants and the mounds they may or may not have built. Thanks for joining us.
It's been a pleasure. Until next time.